celebrating another monumental milestone in the city of Corpus Christi, specifically Flower Bluff. This is the completion of 6 miles of reconstructed roadway on Laguna Shores. And so before we go on any further, I'd like to recognize our elected officials who are joining us. Of course, the one and only District 4, District 4 Councilman Greg Smith, please stand. We have at-large Councilman Mike Pusley. At-large Councilman John Martinez. And we have District 2 Councilman Ben Molina. Thank you all for being here. So Laguna Shores first existed as a sandy dirt road back in the late 1800s, and it was later formed using mud shell and oyster shell in the early 1900s. And I bet Shirley Thornton can tell us a history lesson on that. So as the community expanded in population, Laguna Shores received a seal coat and overlay, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to really sustain the growth of this community and what the future was going to hold for Flower Bluff. So vital for our future economic growth in Flower Bluff, the revitalization of this road is an important road for connectivity, and it's a significant investment, as you all know, for our folks here in Flower Bluff and the entire area. So in the past weeks, we've celebrated several completions of roads, to include Ocean Drive and of course Ayers Road. Those are 2 major ones. But today is another major milestone that we will use moving forward when we speak about the success and the progress of what we are doing as a council working for you. And that is the completion of 6 miles here behind me, Laguna Shores Road. And this is the road that Councilman Smith drove on in the 70s and your mayor drove on in the 80s while we were at Flower Bluff High School. And Jay Gardner, well, the list goes on here. But it means a lot to us. It really does. And improving the quality of life, not only your quality of life, but this is a big part of the city of Corpus Christi because it is on one of our natural resources. That does not exist throughout the entire city. So that makes this road even more important and more special. So as we continue significant progress on our city's streets across the board, we will not take our foot off the gas. So we will continue to pop up these tents and pull up these microphones and announce with great pride the success that we are having because of your leadership, because you have a strong team at City Hall. You have a strong team behind Peter Zanoni, behind this council. Remember that. Your representation is critical to what happens across the city. So with that, I want to thank you again for being here. I want to thank our city manager, as I always do, for his leadership. I want to thank Corpus Christi Public Works Department and our engineering services for focusing more than ever on city streets. So with that, I am going to introduce our city manager, Peter Zanoni.
All right, that's a great job, Mayor. Yeah, right. The mayor said it. We are focused. Priority number 1 is streets, and that's when the council hired me 3 years ago. Not only did they make that loud and clear, but the community did as well. And so we're glad to be at events like this. Today we see yet another project completed. And I must say, 3 years ago when I was touring the community and some of our first community meetings, you all, I think a lot of you here, Shirley, you may have remembered, said, Peter, you have got to drive Laguna Shores. I thought they wanted me to drive it because it's a great drive. And they said, no, you need to drive it to see what we're up against, right? They were just dismayed at the condition the road had gotten to and the lack of elevation that it had. You all talked about it flooding with minor high tides, events. So what we have today is what you really wanted me to see 3 years ago, Shirley, which is a beautiful road that is protected from the waters behind us, but it's nice and smooth, it's drivable, and it's 6 miles of great progress. So we don't do it by ourselves. We have a great team. You saw Maria Molina, Jeff Edmonds is here as well from the city, but we rely on the private sector to do big jobs like this, and we appreciate and we respect our development community contractors because they help us get the work done. So Mako Contracting is Gabriel here. Gabriel Goodman. There we go. Gabriel, the tall guy in the back. And Brandon, and then Armando. Are you all there too? All right, you guys. You look pretty rested back there after the big job, right? They're all cool and collected with those glasses on. But we thank you, Mako, for doing one segment of the road. It got done and got done in good shape. And then we had Haas Anderson. I don't think they're here today, but Haas Anderson did the second part of the road as well. And then we need a good design. While we have good contractors and good project managers at the city, we need good design. And so LJA Engineering, Jeff Coyne, Dylan, Hannah, and Jay Gardner. I don't know if you all raise your hands who are here, right? We like LJA Engineering. We appreciate the design work that you all did here. So if we didn't have such nice grass, I may skip the rest of the speech because it's got some facts. But look at this grass. Isn't this nice? Right? It's real relaxing just looking at it. I want to give you some stats. The mayor talked a little bit about it. So the road was initially built in 1900s, and in 1950s it was rebuilt, but it was built with caliche base and then topped with asphalt. And we do have some engineers here with us, but we know that doesn't work well, right? But it was done in the 50s. In the 60s, Laguna Shores did get some additional improvements, but they were minor, a seal coat and an overlay. This is a $17 million project behind me, ladies and gentlemen. Big investment from the city, right? Right, and that's a good example of why we've made streets priority number one. We're investing in them significantly. So what we did is we reconstructed the road, took out all that base that really is not sustainable. We widened the roadway. We put in channels like you can see right over here. This one, do you know what this one is, Brett? This channel? What? Van Galen channel. Yep, that's right here, Van Galen channel. We put that in, and others along the way. There were 3 segments of the road, but along the way, and Shirley showed me this recently when we took a tour. Thank you for that tour, Shirley. There are 92 residences and businesses along this drive, all of whom received brand new driveway approaches as part of the project, right? 92. Over 8,000 linear feet of underground drainage pipes. We don't see, but that's important to get the stormwater off the road so we can drive even when it rains. 8,000 linear feet of underground drainage pipes. Here's an interesting one, 35,000 tons of limestone. Is that a lot, Councilman? 35,000 tons, and that's what we need to do in our community. We don't have limestone here, but we truck it in from rail car or trucks, which we need to do. That's the right way to build the road. And then 11,000 tons of asphalt. So we don't think that's going anywhere anytime fast. 11,000 tons of asphalt. We have existing sewer and water lines. They were rehabbed. Over 4,000 square feet of articulated matting was installed along the frontage by the water to keep that road in place. Those are some of the stats that make this a great road, but we don't need to know all that. We can drive it and tell, right? And surely when the water gets high, the road doesn't go under, right? Okay, so that's success. We're going to keep up the maintenance of it. We have Public Works here. Not only do we have a great engineering department that's building these roads, but we have a robust now on our organizational chart in our organization, a Public Works department whose job is to maintain the road so it doesn't get to the state it was in before this project. So I want to thank you for letting me speak to you today, your city manager. I especially want to thank the mayor and city council for representing the community and making sure we do what you all want us to do, which is get our roads back in order and improve our community. And today is a great example of that. So thank you. Thank you very much. Councilman Smith. And I think Councilman Smith is speaking next, and so we're going to call him up to the microphone. Yes, sir? Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Well, this is how it ought to be. The politicians in the sun and all y'all sitting in the shade. So, you know, that's a good start. As a Bluffian and the fellow Bluffians, this is a long time coming, right? Amen. Yeah, but talk, but now we're here. And I'd particularly like to thank Ben Molina, Mayor Guajardo, We were there when we got this on the 2018 bond with it, 100% support, and I know Councilman John and Mike over there, they've always been supportive of the bluff, so thank you all for coming. But they talked a little bit of history on there, so let's dial back to the 1950s. They were only on this side of Lexington Boulevard, now South Padre Island Drive, 3 paved roads. It was Waldron Field Road going to Waldron Field. It was Yorktown going to Waldron Field also, and here at Laguna Shores. Why Laguna Shores? All along here you had Humboldt Oil and Refining, a lot of production going on there. And we also had a fishing community. So you go down there were building channels on there. We all know here we're on Laguna Shores Road, what a great fishing spot on there. And back in those days that people came here as a place to fish, but it was also an inexpensive place to live. That those early folks living on Laguna Shores, they would go get their water at the school. They didn't even have water on there. They would fish for a living. So we had a lot of fish houses down on this end and that end on there, you know, in tougher times and make it. And Exxon, Humboldt on there, very important to this community. Now we've seen they've sold the last bit of land. They are gone, that whole chapter in history. But that's what did Laguna Shores. Laguna Shores, one of the first paved roads in Flower Bluff and the last repaved road. So Ben and I were visiting on there, so you have it's called a PCI, Pavement Condition Index. And when 2017, when we were putting the bond package together, it's a scale of 1 to 100. Laguna Shores was in single digits. It was a 6. And the only reason it was a 6 is because when it wasn't flooded, they had time to go look at it with it. But we see now we're elevated just like that segment that goes from Graham Road to Hustling Hornet, which we did back in the 2000s on there. It's held up very well. We had the flooding on there. That's the one piece of Laguna Shores we didn't have an issue with. Now all of Laguna Shores is like that. And this project was, without it, it had plenty of hiccups on it. It wasn't a quick one getting done. I want to thank LGA on there. I mean, I had Jeff's number with engineering in there. I was calling Jeff Cohen and Jay on there. Gabe, how we coming on there. One thing after another. I particularly want to thank Frank and Twan at Wind and Waves and the Fish House. Every time we'd tear that street up in front of them, I'd get the calls. I'd be calling Jeff on there, but that's past us now. But you know, that's the past, that's the construction. Where are we looking in the future? Laguna Shores, it's not a residential street, it's not a collector street, it's not an arterial. It is a parkway. And we need to remember it. It is a parkway with it. I visited with Richard Martinez and we talked about changing the name from Laguna Shores Drive to Laguna Shores Parkway. That's how we have to look at this. So we have that change in time. We've got $1 million view coming out there. You can see improvements going along Laguna Shores as we reflect our closeness to this water. You know, Flower Bluff, our community within a community on there. And this is so important to that, to take that now a relaxing drive, which used to be either underwater or through the bumps, but we can enjoy it. And we're seeing down on the end a lot of investment in our community. We're seeing tear downs going out here. As we look to the right, that's really kind of old Flower Bluff. We will see a transition here. Everybody being able to take advantage of this really 6 miles of water, this 6 miles of nature. And then one last thing in that vein with it. In this project, it was much more than a road on there. What did we do much more than a road? Redhead Pond. Redhead Pond didn't have any freshwater inflows. The salinity was going through the roof, a sterile body of water. Part of this project, we have diverted flows in there. Now it's becoming fresh. You will see those ducks you used to see in there, the redheads, the pintails. They need that fresh water. We also acquired Duncan Pond. So you have Redhead Pond, Duncan Pond in front of the school, and then Renoski. So as part of this overall project, now that is in the public space. So here we are on Laguna Shores. The Laguna Madre, with its world-class fishing on one side, and we've got 1.5 miles of these transitional bodies of water on there, completely tidal at Renoski, a little bit of switch at Duncan, and then Redhead with it. So we have these great assets, and as the mayor is saying, we are improving on this assets, that quality of life with it. So it's much more than a road that we're doing here. We're making Flower Bluff and Corpus Christi a much better place for we two-legged creatures, the ones with wings on there and stuff, keeping our community within a community vibrant. And I want one last thing. You know, we're talking about the history. We've got Shirley Thornton here, President of Flower Bluff School Board, and I've got to recognize Chairman Hunter's office there. They've always been supportive with it. Yeah. What? Yeah, you're on. Yeah. No Christmas present on there. But Shirley put a history together going back to 1894 that would have done a thesis proud in there. 1 week's time, she did what a student in A&M would have taken a year to do with it. But going back again to 1894 on there, with that overall history. Thank you, Shirley, for preserving the history of this peninsula, the Ensenada Peninsula, keeping our community within a community. And then we've Flo on there, and Flo always promoting the bluff on there with her blog with it. Here are two great citizens on there. There's old John Michael back there. Old John, I think we're about the same age. I can still outswim you, but yeah, you got me on that one. But thank you so much for coming out, John. I know Flower Bluff is very deep in your heart on there. So this celebration of Flower Bluff, this celebration of the city of Corpus Christi, I cannot thank you, staff, for everything you've done. Everybody, this team on there. My fellow council members, mayor, we did it. Thank you. One last thing. We got Jay there, Flower Bluff class of 90. He knows all of her secrets.
Oh, no,
so when I really need something, I say, give me a little bit of info.
No, not true. But we are class of 90 together, 70 and 90. All right, well, with that, and Gay White and Todd Hunter's office, God, I'm so embarrassed. That's the first time, just so you know. First time I've ever done that. Jerry, Ms. Webtha, thank you for being here and representing the chairman. We know this is very special to him as well. So with that, we are going to cut the ribbon. So please join us right over here.